Mark Fields is the former CEO of Ford Motor, CNBC contributor, member of Qualcomm's board of directors. Mark, I want every company to succeed, whatever their power plan is. I wanted Lordstown to make it. They did not. I wanted Fisker to make it. They did not. Think Slate's going to make it?
Well, Brian, I think Slate has really struck a nerve in the industry and also with consumers. If you think about those other EV automakers that you just mentioned, they focused on the really high end, and there's only so many customers that can pay $80,000 for a vehicle, nonetheless an EV vehicle. So I think Slate's approach towards affordability and, they're doing some innovative things. They're making it very, very simplistic. Even the manufacturing, they're using, a lot of injection molded body panels, which, doesn't mean you need a paint shop, so it keeps their capital expenditures down. But, in this environment where the cost of a vehicle the average cost of a vehicle is about $48,000 and is going higher because of tariffs, this might hit a nerve. And what's interesting, Brian, is we haven't seen this kind of size of a pickup since the mid 90s. And that's when, Ford had a lot of success with the Ranger and Chevy had the S10. And they weren't so much bought because they were pickups and for payload. They were bought more for commuter cars and they were affordable. So I think, Slate has really, kind of carved out an interesting piece here. Now it's all going to come down to execution because, as you know, the industry's littered with EV startups that couldn't scale manufacturing or supply chains.
Well, you know better than I do. Building cars is hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard to build them. It's hard to sell them. The Maverick, the Ford Maverick, Mark, you might have heard about that vehicle having success being a little smaller. My first car was a 1981 Toyota Tacoma pickup, not the cool jacked up one, but a little tiny thing with bench seats and no air conditioning, stick shift, 0 to 60 maybe if I was going downhill. I feel like this is trying to take that market, and I feel optimistic about that price point, but are you convinced they can keep it?
Well, that's going to be the challenge. I mean, first off, from what I understand, they're focusing on a lot of their sourcing on here in the U.S. So, the good news on that's going to shield them from tariffs. The bad news is, particularly just focusing on U.S. sourcing is more expensive. So, as they get into, the further engineering of these vehicles and then, getting into the pre-builds at the plants, you might see that, price point creep up. The other question, Brian, is what's the margins at the pricing that they're announcing? They originally announced, I think, around $27,000. And then when you factored in the federal incentive for EVs, it was going to be about 20 grand, and that's now gone. But I think the point is there's not many vehicles, Brian, that are below $30,000. And when you think about whether it's first-time buyers or people just focusing on affordability in an environment where vehicles are just going through the roof in terms of their pricing, this might carve out a nice little niche. And, they have a plant that has 150,000 units of capacity. So we'll see what happens. The demand, at least I think they have over 100,000 pre-orders, but, we'll see how many of those translate into sales.
That's an excellent point, Mark. And again, how, in your experience, like people, it's $50 refundable, right? So the pre-order numbers could be messy.
Yeah, it's a lot of false positives, right? Remember, I think Fisker said they had 50,000 orders, and I think it turned into 4. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt. But I think the most important thing is, are they going to get this vehicle out on time, as they mentioned, by the end of 26? Because not only do you have vehicles like the Ford Maverick, but Ford also, as you know, made announcements around a small EV architecture that they're going to bring out with a small pickup, probably around the same time frame. So there's going to be more competition. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. And it's going to come down again to execution. But holding that price point may be challenging, but in relation to the rest of the industry, it'll still be one of the entry price points that people will have access to.
Yeah, we'll see if we can pull that off. The cover story to Car and Driver, by the way, this month. And yes, I subscribe to actual physical magazines. There's the cover. Let's see if it works. Mark Fields, love having you on. Love talking about this topic. Thank you very much.